Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another week and with another epic strength-fulfilled racing event here in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. It is time for week number 10 of the 2026 Season 1 campaign, and we have made our way all the way southward from Daytona to none other than the Sebring International Raceway. That's right, we have remained in the Florida state of the US of A, but making our way southward by the best part of 3 hours, we've made our way to the old Hendricks Army Air Base, which now is the site of one of the premier racing circuits in the world. With 17 corners over its expansive length, which is almost the best part of 4 miles, here's a circuit that is known just as much for its corners as it is for its bumpy road surface transitions. With smooth asphalt in combination with none other than old concrete slabs, this circuit is definitely going to shake our drivers to the core, and with it, will it shake their abilities up or see some of them put them on display to the finest ability they can? Well, that's what we're here to find out today. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight in the one and only place you can catch all this racing action from our weekly strength-filled race, and of course it is none other on YouTube at youtube.com and search for Paul Walsh Productions or PWP, and you can be tuning in then. If you are tuning in tonight, don't be shy, feel free to say hi and let us know how you're doing and who exactly you're cheering on as we get ready to go racing. As for our schedule, we are of course covering the top split of the 21:45 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC time slot, and we are going to be seeing our drivers make the way out onto the grid in approximately what will be 4 minutes time for a one and only 13-lap race. Now of course being at 5 to 10 this evening, GMT or UTC, but as all drivers get set, who exactly is leading the way and who exactly put the best results on display last time out at Daytona? Well, let's give you a quick recap before we make our way into the racing. Because as we can see, last time out on the 14th of February, Daytona International Speedway was our host circuit, and well there, what we got to see in an epic race of incredible proportions. Well, it was a race which saw the top 11 separated by only 4.2 seconds going on to the final lap, and the most places gained by the winning driver in the Strength of Field broadcaster's history. It was 15 places gained by Alex Keon, who came all the way through from a poor qualifying session in 16th to make his way to victory, and slipstreamed his way on past Harrison Scott to take the win by only 34 thousandths at the line. Second place, it was Harrison Scott, who spent the majority of the race pressuring Philip de Souza for second place, and then he had the prime opportunity to try and steal away the win at the end, and then we did see none other than Chris Prout round off the top 3 there, make his way onto the podium after spending most of the race fighting for a spot inside the top 10, but it very quickly evolved in for a spot for the top 5, and then eventually a chance at a podium. But here at Sebring on the 21st of February, what exactly awaits our drivers? How exactly will they get on? That's what we're here to find out, as after today we'll not be staying in America anymore. We'll make our way to Germany at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit in a week's time on the 28th of February, and then we will be bringing the curtain down at Adelaide in the street circuit on the 7th of March to see out the 2026 Season 1 campaign. But in terms of the standings, how exactly do they stand after the best part of what has been now 9 weeks of racing? Well, as we can see, Daniel Perez Sanchez has taken the lead by only 2 points over Oscar Bernson, and then Alex Keon, with that infamous win last time out, has moved himself to third on 504 points. Nikolai Melder sits in fourth place there, just ahead of Amel Kanakanovic, ahead of Alan Rask, who falls outside the top 5, and then is Yolmar Cord, Aaron Jones, Michael Martins, and Zach Phelps, who complete your top 10 of Division 1 in the iRacing official standings for the Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. But let's talk now about our host circuit for today. Is of course the Sebring International Raceway. 17 quarters over the portion of its 3.74 mile length, or 6.01 kilometres, depending on your preference of units. But what doesn't change at this circuit is the fact that what it lacks in elevation change, it makes up for in the technical test that it presents to drivers. A lot of these corner sweepers, some being hairpins and some being rapid fire direction changes, and throw into that the road surface changes, and this circuit is definitely one that will catch out the most unaware driver and even can surprise the most composed driver. Because they bounce their way around this circuit, well, they'll find in their Porsche Cup 9 and 2.2 GT3 machines, they've got to tune the suspensions well and make sure not to hit those apex curves too high. Some you can ride, some you need to avoid, and get it right and you may come away the winner. Get it wrong, however, and you may be somebody else's dinner. But as we get ready to go racing, a quick reminder of the rules. This is the open setup version of the Porsche Cup Series and iRacing. There's a fixed version and an open setup version, and we are covering the open setup one, which means our drivers bring a setup of their choosing to each and every race session. The grid itself shall be set by a closed qualifying session, which is gradually coming to a close. We'll come back to it very shortly, and we'll see the race commence by a standing start, as it's a tradition of Porsche Cup racing. The only exception was at Daytona. We did have a rolling start for safety purposes, but it will be a standing start once again here today. Now, if drivers do get to 17 instant points, they shall receive a drive-through penalty, and should they get to 25, they will be disqualified. But hopefully we won't see that, and what we want to see is great racing, and let's make our way back to circuit side to see how it all goes down. Because we're qualifying almost at its conclusion, well, here's Elias Finoli right now. Currently the visual fastest of everybody in the number 4, but can he go even faster? It's 59.409, and the answer is going to be no. It seems to be an invalidated lap, as George Karakoulis, meanwhile, goes to second there, only 63 thousandths behind. And now on a cool-down lap there, he's missed his opportunity to try and still weigh that pole position. But as we do see a few more drivers parking up there, including Brian Scolari. Meanwhile, Joshua Turnbull moves to the top there, and the Altitude Frame Esports driver on a 59.247. That is a monster lap there to take pole position provisionally by 1.6 attempts. Can anybody else potentially dethrone him? We will see. As meanwhile, a few more drivers have still got to complete the laps with a minute left on the clock, and they should be able just about squeeze the ball in. Now, with regards to our strength of field for today, well, it's quite an impressive one at that, and we'll just get an update with regards to that number. It is 4,023, so therefore we are continuing to stay in the 4,000s for a good portion of this season, and I suspect a few of our big names are currently competing in the iRacing official Bathurst 12-hour event for this weekend, but we also do see some big names here, including Finoli, including also Matt Strand, and also we do have Hayden Bramley on the grid once again, and here he is in the green machine, and he's just gone to second there, a 10th behind Turnbull's time, and Turnbull definitely turning the key, no doubt about that one. But as we do look to Mateus Machado, well, he's making his way on through Le Mans corner there with 30 seconds left on the clock. Is he going to have enough time to get the job done here? He may not. It's going to be very close for him. Meanwhile, Thomas Chevalier, I don't think he's going to be making it. In fact, he pulls very tight to the inside wall there coming down the Allman Straight, and I suspect right now he knows he's not going to make it, and he accepts his fate. As AJ Cabrera, meanwhile, moves up to 17th place, and out of our 24 drivers, the only driver who's not set a lap is Zach Turner. Meanwhile, it's going to be Sivani Madrigal, who'll be the last of the qualifying drivers as time runs out. And well, ladies and gents, without further ado, let's make our way to the grid and see how they all line up for the purposes of our one and only sprint race today. And so as all our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our strength field race here in Week 10 of the 2026 Season 1 campaign of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. And here at Sebring, it is none other than Joshua Turnbull who has taken pole position from the United Kingdom ahead of his fellow countryman of Hayden Bramley. It was an attempt between the two of them, and there was a further half attempt to Elias Finoli, who starts third. The Swedish driver from Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, ahead of George Karakoulis. The Greek then being ahead of none other than Matt Kendall, the highest decorated driver in terms of iRating for this grid today, the number 1 driver, and he's joined on the third row by the fellow Briton of none other than Lewis Goff. Brian Scolari and Philip Killar will make their way onto your 4th row of the grid, and then behind the start MC driver, it is going to be Jorge Montanes ahead of Matt Strand. The Ice Cold Racing driver then being followed up on row number 6 by the combination pair there of what is firstly Leo Clausen and also Jörg van Tilburg, and then from the Dutchman it's the Canadian driver there of Jacob Lille ahead of Jonas Kremer. Then in 15th it's going to be Ben Sporzor ahead of Marcus Kamaritic, ahead of none other than AJ Cabrera, who starts in 17th place, and then 18th is going to be Mateus Machado. Behind the Brazilian driver, round off your top 20, it'll be the combination pair of Cristobal Castro and also Thomas Chevalier, and outside the top 20, let's not forget about our final 2 rows, we're going to have firstly in 21st place Danny Hanses ahead of Mihai Dragan, and then from the remaining driver it will be to the TTR machinery of Siviani Madrigal, and then last but not least, with no van lap set, it will be Zach Turner there, who starts in 24th place. Well, the last 5 drivers are still making their way onto the grid. We're not too far away from going green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen. We are just waiting right now for about 3 or 4 drivers to get their setups on the car, and then they'll be absolutely itching to go racing. But it is a long way down towards Gender Being Bend at turn number 1, and all these drivers right now know that to get there, they've got to make their way over the old concrete seams and slabs. Without further ado, here come the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's firing lights. And it's lights down, away we go here for the Week 10 Strength for Field race at Sebring. And as they make the way away, well, Joshua Turnbull there gets a good start, immediately pins the car to the inside wall. Hayden Bramley's going to keep it nice and tight for as long as he can, but as they come in towards this opening braking zone, well, Bramley looking around the outside there, but all the drivers sweep the way through, and as they do, now making the way up to us here at turn number 3. A couple of drivers running a bit wide there, but everyone through the opening couple of corners. But Bramley has taken the lead, and Turnbull being swarmed by Finoli now. Finoli trying to make it too wide, coming on through turns 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's close there as Matt Kendall tries to sneak his way out the inside. That doesn't work. And as they come out of turn number 5, right now, immediately Kendall here having to look behind him because George Karakoulis is on the attack, as is Brian Scolari. And Scolari right now looking for the move down the Greek driver who's dropped to place. Kendall, meanwhile, after a poor qualifying points, I think you'd say, well, he's into 4th. He's defending hard on the inside inside and backing everybody up. As meanwhile, looking around the outside there, is that Lewis Goff going for a move? I think it is, and Goff in the end doesn't quite make it work. However, the yellow and blue machine definitely going the attack there and looking for an unconventional way to get it done at the hairpin. More overdrive saved on through the opening few quarters. We've had a non-stop from Zach Turner, so we do have 23 starters. As meanwhile, that's a big look up the inside there, and it's going to be too wide. It's going to be up the inside there of Karakoulis. Karakoulis now under pressure from Goff. Goff trying to go around the outside in there. Collier bend. That's not going to work. He's going to be made to run out wide there, and well, their fighting continues. As meanwhile, Goff and Matanez now back inside by side in. Jorge Matanez going a bit defensive there. This is Matt Strand. As Strand tries to poke his nose in, and at the same time wants to try and go defensive as well, because he's got the problem of Philip Keeler behind him. The Polish driver right now on the attack. Indeed, that seems to be the theme of all of them. But Hayden Bramley will come into Le Mans. It's going to be on the outside now as he comes off the inside of the kink. And it's a big tuck to the inside there for Joshua Turnbull. Turnbull right now already fighting hard. He wants this place back as soon as possible. But Elias Finoli, he's going to get a huge run out here at turn number 16 onto the Ullman straight. And will Turnbull on this inside right now. He's going to lose so much momentum as a result of his hijinks coming through turns 15 and 16. And therefore now Finoli and Bramley too wide coming in towards Sunset Bend. Bit of contact now. It's going to send Finoli very wide, that little door rub. And through Sunset they come. And right now Bramley holding on. But after one lap, well, here's the picture right now. We don't really need to summarise it more than this. Hanley Ethan Bramley may have moved into lead, but he is not safe, because on to lap number 2 they come, and as they come down towards the left-hander, we can see there that's going to be Turnbull up the inside again, goes a win for it. Remember, the inside there is just as effective as the outside in a two-wide situation. It's all about momentum. They touch again, and coming in towards turn number 3 right now. Will Joshua Turnbull on the inside? Can he get it stopped at a dime? He does, but he has to give the space to Brownlee, and Brownlee goes to the grass. Brownlee rejoins there, and as he does, he picks up a yellow flag. Now, that will be a slowdown penalty, and well, as he now gets ready to serve that, well, where's he going to serve it? How will he serve it? I suspect it will be into the hairpin, but he's going to be tactical here. How can he drag the car to that braking zone and cost everyone a bit of time, if he can find a way to do so? If not, he may have to get at the places right now, and I think that's what he's going to do, as Turnbull immediately tucks up the inside here and says to him, no, you don't, but he goes deep. They both go deep. They'll one of those further contact, and Elias Finoli takes the lead in this race, as Turnbull now in a fight here with Kendall. The two teammates will go fighting with each other. There's been an instant further back. In fact, Danny Hanses has fallen all the way down to the back of the field. We're going to get a replay of that when we can, but right now here comes Brian Scolari looking in the midst there of the two Altitude 3M cars. He can't make that happen. He falls back, as meanwhile that is Karakoulis being elbowed wide there by Lewis Goff coming in towards turn number 10, and Goff is going to take the place there of the Greek driver, but the Briton right now having to get his elbows out to make it happen. But further back, Mihai Dragan, he's on the move as he's moved all the way up from 22nd to 16th place, and the Romanian driver right now running the colours of his country on his car, and well, he's on the back there of Leo Clausen and trying to keep Cristobal Castro behind him, and in full Cristobal Lopez Castro I do believe, running away through Bishop Bend. It's all going to be line of stern between these drivers right now. With all the fighting that's going on at the front of the field, we have got only 10 seconds separating first through to 21st. It is lack sharp between these drivers. Indeed, this is going to feel in a way a bit similar to Daytona last time out in terms of the closest of the field. Let's look up the inside there by Matthias Machado, making the move on Madrigal, and that's going to be as straightforward as possible. We're coming all the way down the Allman Straight here. These two continue to fight as we come back up towards the very front of the fighting. Was Bramley there back on the inside of Brian Scolari. Scolari loses outcome through Sunset, and that's to the end of lap number 2. And that's 2 chapters turned. We've got another, it's 11 to go in this one as they come down towards turn of 1, but it's Finoli trying to keep Joshua Turnbull at bay, with Kendall, Bramley, Scolari round off the top 5. Then it's Goff a second back, who leads the rest of the field on through, ahead of Karakoulis, and then it will be Jorge Montanez ahead of Matt Strand, with Philippe Keeler round off that top 10 ahead of Jacob Lille, who best of the rest in 11th place has the worry of Bozo behind him. As these drivers weave and wind the way through, we need to take a replay of what exactly happened on lap number 2, including this, ladies and gentlemen, between Hayden Bramley and Joshua Turnbull. Now, this, of course, was the incident that triggered the yellow flag, or the slowdown penalty for Bramley, coming in towards turn number 3, and in the end, they did touch down. I think Hayden Bramley took to the escape road 9. He was never going to make the apex of 4 without mounting the curb and sending the car wide, so he opted there to use the grass, essentially, to keep himself safe, and I don't think Turnbull will complain about that, because Bramley did, in the end, have to give the place up due to the slowdown. And we can see Turnbull immediately looked up the inside into the braking zone. But was there contact between the two of them here into the braking zone? The answer is I think there was. I think Turnbull went deep by accident and Bramley got elbowed out a bit more, so he lost out. Meanwhile, this happened to Danny Hanses a bit further behind. So he was at the time running in the battle for none other than what was around 17th place. And into the braking zone he went. He was tapped on the rear there. That sent him sliding wide. And AJ Cabrera was propelled onwards. And I think he was tapped by the car behind him. So suddenly it all went wrong. And I think that was Marcus Camerich who came into the back of both drivers there, and that's what triggered off the instant. And back to your live racing we come. As we do, all these drivers right now continue to push on. And, well, since we've left the live racing, what else has happened out there? Not too much in terms of your top 10. Meanwhile, we do see Cameron up the inside of Cristobal Castro, who's missing a whole chunk of the front of the car there. That's not normal. I wonder on earth and how that's happened. As meanwhile, Matthias Machado dives up the inside there at Thomas Chevalier. And, well, I've never seen somebody just decide, well, if everyone's going to go out wide there at Le Mans Corner, I might as well just go straight up the inside there and just be a bit of a nuisance. And in the end, Machado doing that brilliantly. And Chevalier's going to be thinking to himself, how on earth did he manage just to pull up the inside and then pull off like that? Well, the answer is Machado right now really does understand how to get the traction out the car. We're going all the way through Sunset and see what is the weakened car of Castro there running wide. He's going to have to give up space. He's going to lose out even more in this race as they head on towards the next one. I think that car's going to be towed to the pit shortly. It is not going well. It's Cristobal Lopez Castro's car. But meanwhile, as we do come back towards what will be Joshua Turnbull, well, right now running second ahead of Kendall, his teammate. Well, Hayden Bramley, meanwhile, is on the back of this group. And, well, then it's Brian Scolari a little bit further behind as Lewis Goff, we watch in the back of Scolari's car like a hawk, looking for a way in here to try and take the 5th place off him, because we saw Goff try and go for the move earlier on. Didn't quite work out, but right now it's another time. Meanwhile, Hayden Bramley looking up the inside there, that's all in for the move, and well, immediately Kendall gives him the space there, too wide on the exit, both giving each other to coexist, and we'll now make the way on through Fangio Bend. Kendall backs off there, knowing that Bramley is going to be a little bit too hot to handle at this point in the race, and therefore there's no point fighting him, albeit at the moment Hayden Bramley I think knows he's got the pace to win this race, but the problem is he's now got to find his way past Joshua Turnbull, and given the history of these two in this race, in terms of how it started between them, I wonder here whether Joshua Turnbull and Bramley are both thinking the same thing at this point, which is, yes, it would be great to fight, but we have a problem, which is there's a guy ahead of us who's leading the race, Elias Finoli, who has snuck ahead into lead this race as a result of their fighting. And right now, Finoli, if he can get them to fight a bit further, he might be able to simply run away with this, and that's rare when that happens. But we will see. Further back, Goff over the back of Scolari, and he has Caraculas, who are looking at to try and make some progress, albeit Montanez and Strand are also in his heels, and now everyone really following in the draft of the next car, although there's a better run coming out of Le Mans Bend there by Caraculas, and Goff right now will be understanding the fact that slipstream is going to go one way and he'll go in the favour of the Greek driver, who's heading down towards Sunset. He looks to the inside here, Caraculas, and right now thinking about the move, and in the end it's not going to work, or is it, as he tries to put some mental pressure on the Briton. But as they make the way on around, you can see that pressure is all for naught when the gap is stationary. So therefore he's going to have to wait his turn, and from them we make our way onto the next lap, and here comes Scolari looking around the outside of Kendall. Kendall's had a poor run through Sunset, so suddenly the man in fourth who looks safe, no longer in the number one, and Scolari in the end takes too close to the inside wall, and in fact has to back off there and lets the car roll out deep. And Goff now looking for the move here, and he's going to try and seize on Scolari's mistake. That's going to work, and Caraculas meanwhile also tries to get involved, being in the free state as they were. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Thomas Chevalier is still fighting with Camerich and also Madrigal, and well, Siviani Madrigal has made some good progress so far in the number 23 up to 20th, and we're also looking for a way now into what will be the best part of the top 20. How that's not going to necessarily be easy, and AJ Cabrera meanwhile is only 3 seconds back and is closing quickly on this group, so he's going to get involved in time. But from them, back inside the top 10, Scolari and Goff back together. As we say hello to a few of you there in the YouTube chat, we'll give you all shout-outs in a brief moment, because right now we need to shout out the fact that Goff's looking up the inside here, in towards what will be Cunningham Bend. And, well, up the inside, touch between the two of them. It does send Scolari a little bit wide, and now here comes Caraculas, who's going to try and look for a move here in towards Tower Bend. But to go on the inside of Tower, you've got to be committed at 12. He thinks about it, but Scolari in the end just outbreaks him into the corner, and therefore no change. But this battle is brewing, it's building, and it could be overflowing very shortly, depending on exactly how much this gets cooked up right now. Does it get spoiled, or does it stay temperamental? Well, we'll be the judge of that as they come through what will be Le Mans, and we'll roll in the way from apex to apex. Here you can see how right now Caraculas and Montanez, they are so close to each other, as well as battling with Scolari, and that's what Scolari's going to be hoping, that he can force the two behind him to really start kicking off against each other, so he can give himself some breathing room and go hunting after the man up the road. Albeit Matt Strand at the back of this group in 9th place, so I've had the pleasure of seeing race in multiple Porsche Cup series so far this year, and I'll tell you one thing right now, he's holding on to that 9th place, and he will be gradually starting to think about a move of his own, but he's a very patient driver, is Matt Strand, and right now that patience may pay off later on. Jonas Kramer, he sits in 13th. He's on the back of Ben Spozor here as they come towards now lap number 6. And coming across that timing line, he's going to look around the outside here in the Sakura livery machine. That'd be in tribute there to the very popular tree. And come through the left hand all the way down to the outside at the Gender being Bend on the Tag Heuer car. Can he get it done? Well, they're going to be too wide here now, coming in towards turn number 3. He's on the outside, and in the end, that's not going to work. So what can he do now to divide the gap? And the answer is not much. As me, Martin Chevalier, all under pressure here to try and find a way past none other than Marcus Kemmerich. And well, he's still going to make the way too wide in, but on the inside, he's just cut off at the nose there by the Dane, and that means he's going to stay where he is. But from these drivers, well, even more to come. Looking back up. And as they make their way now up towards what will be the next braking zone, well, your leader right now of Elias Finoli holding on there. As we do say hello to Steve Clay Goes Racing, who says, looks a bit misty here at Sebring. And it's a bit of a misty day today, but I hope you're doing well, Steve. Although I do see you mentioned there the fact that we do have potentially some issues, where it's on our end, alternatively on your end, with regards to the consistency of the stream. Although we can see some feedback there from other viewers saying it's a bit smooth on their end, so it might be your connection. But to be fair, of course, this stream after the fact will be also available as a video on demand, free of charge here on the Forge Productions YouTube channel. All these broadcasts, of course, brought to you free every week. We also do say hello there to Ivana Christina Kunzwega, who is enjoying the racing there, and also we do say hello there to Nick DeBeck and RP Corp. And good evening to you all. And to those who haven't said hi, feel free to say hi if you want to do so, because we don't bite here. The only biting you'll see is the biting of brakes and the triggering of ABS as a result. But as our Elias Finoli leader right now makes his way down towards Sunset Bend, he's almost at the halfway point of this race, and the next half could be just as challenging as the first. Known as Joshua Turnbull and Hayden Bramley, they seem to have put aside their differences for now and are looking to get involved with each other. But coming down towards Sunset, Jonas Kramer here looking one side then the other versus Bozo. Still can't find his way on past, albeit bouncing around there right now. Definitely you can really see how the very sensitive suspension of these Porsche Cup cars hitting those concrete seams. These are the original seams, of course, which planes would have taxied and taken flight on all the way back in the 1940s. This circuit been in place since December 1950. And right, Jonas Kramer getting closer and closer. Surely he's got to be figured out the move at some point soon, as otherwise he will be spending the whole race here literally on the back of the number 16. And I don't think that's what he signed up for today, although it will be an epic race between them. I think he wants a little bit more out of this one. But as they hop the way over the turn 4 apex curve there, they can mount that one high, but not number 5, because that'll cause the car to understeer wide. And Kramer there just not getting the best exit out of 5, and that's going to cause the gap to just gradually open up by a tenth. 3 attempts they make the way for a big bend, and he's just going to have to sit there right now. But what is very interesting is that Bowser there, even with the draft, is pulling away. So that might be a sign that perhaps, as well as quarter exit, he's running perhaps a little bit less rear wing and just giving himself some more straight line speed to work with. And then again, of course, all drives being set up to their choosing. Sebring, normally a medium to high downforce circuit, given the combination of corners and the fact you only really have 2 long straights around here. The back straight of Auburn and also the run from Tower all the way in towards Bishop and Le Mans. But then again, some micro adjustments in the setup can really make the difference in these close-knit battles. But as we do see at Leo Clausen heading on, well, we can see what is a few jokes being made there with regards to the stream may be smooth, but the racing surface is definitely not smooth, and you'd be absolutely spot on. And well, a little bit of a fact, a lot of teams that compete in the 24 Hours of Le Mans each year, they come to the 12 Hours of Sebring with the idea that if you can survive Sebring and your car is able to stay together for 12 hours here, it's easily going to survive 24 Hours of Le Mans by comparison, because arguably is the roughest circuit in the world for putting a car through its test of endurance. But as we do see, Leo Clausen starting to now outlast what seems to be Joop van Tilburg in the attack for 14th place. He's attacking. He's the car behind in the number 21. Well, his target's now going to be potentially look up the inside here. The answer's going to be no. But back to the front of the field, and what we can see is Elias Finoli still leading for now. 3 attempts is the gap as he goes on to lap 8, and Joshua Turnbull and Hayden Bramley still push each other onwards. And Bramley at this point, well, the problem he's got is he's got to clear the man in front of him first, and these two now have definitely been at each other's throats early on in the race, albeit fairly for the most part. And therefore, as Bramley literally rides the rear bumper of Turnbull, I think he's going to be hoping he can find a way quickly on past. But this is an awkward one, because the problem is if he fights Turnbull, they let Finoli go. If he doesn't fight Turnbull, Turnbull may not be able to pass Finoli or get alongside and create the opportunity for Bramley. So what do you do here? Well, the answer is you look to the inside, you go very late on the brakes, and Turnbull immediately leaves the door open there. He saw it coming from a mile off, and to be fair, it was a big send, but Turnbull was respectful in that, and Hayden Bramley pretty much saying to him in the end, look, I'm coming for the place. If you don't want your car turned around, you stay away. Otherwise, we're both going around. This goes to the stewards after the race. And Joshua Turnbull, they're using experience, as Hayden Bramley has done. That's communication at its finest at the best part of 160 miles an hour, down to 50 at the apex, whereby now Hayden Bramley's moved into second. But Joshua Turnbull is going to be thinking to himself, right, if Hayden doesn't get this done within the next 2 laps or so, I am doing the exact same back to him, or elsewhere on the circuit, I'm going to do something similar. That's how these two work at this level. And Elias Finoni now will look in his rearview mirror. He will notice that gap has opened up for a little bit to 6 tenths, but he also noticed there's a new car behind him, and now he's got to try and outpace him. But these drivers really pushing on as quickly as they possibly can. The lap times right now sub 2 minutes here for what is your top 10. They're all pushing on. Fuel loads are going lower as well, and that's going to change the aero balance of these cars. Remember, the fuel tank is in the front, not the rear, unlike most racing machines, and that means the front of the car gets lighter over the race distance, and therefore it really does mean the rear of the car becomes the bigger question factor, which it should always be in a Porsche 992, to be fair, given the fact it's rear engine, rear wheel drive. But Finoni goes a bit deep there at Sunset. That's a mistake, and that's not a mistake you want to make when Hayden Bramley's chasing you. Gap now half down to 3 tenths. Another, what is 5 laps to go, on to lap number 9 of 13. And right now, Elias Finoni definitely started to feel the mental pressure here. Further back, you can see that is George Karakoulas ahead of Brian Scolari. These two have literally been nose to tail for the entire race now. And, well, they've still got the best part of a third of the race to go. And Scolari here being a very patient driver, but Matt Strand and Philip Gillar, they are also trying to follow through. And Jacob Belirlin, meanwhile, is round off that top 10 a little bit further back with 11th place, currently being in the hands of Jonas Kremer, who is keeping Jorge Montanez, Bent Bozel, and also Joep van Tilburg behind him, albeit we have had a bit of a moment for Montanez, and this is exactly what happened. So this was Jorge Montanez looking for what was a good braking line in towards turn number 10, and in the end, well, he absolutely nailed it, but also found a lot of oversteer and exit, and that's what sent him to the grass. But well done to him for keeping it together. That almost was a big moment with the barrier, but just in front, well, we did see the battle there between what was none other than Karakoulas, and also I do believe that was Brian Scolari, and it was Karakoulas coming back. And how did he get it done? Whereas on the brakes there, absolutely buttery smooth move, and well, until there was a bit of contact between the two of them, and on exit, well, I think both decided to calm it down. And we did have this for Danny Hanses, who was already a bit further back. He did have the company of his rivals behind, and unfortunately coming through Le Mans Bend, took a lot of apex curve there, and that sent the rear of the car spinning on round. But we come back around now to your live racing as the mist has got away, the headlights are coming on here, and indeed right now we're heading into the closing stages of today. And well, that's Jonas Kremer, Jorge Montanez and Bozo together, and well, they are bringing with them Van Tilburg and also Clausen, who's a bit further back. And well, Leo Clausen right now not enjoying being the 5th car in a long line at the moment. That dirty air effect is going to be even more pronounced. And a bit further back, we do of course have Thomas Chevalier trying to break away from Marcus Kamaric, and also Giovanni Madrigal. And these three always go. Great battles everywhere you look in the field, but the biggest one, of course, is at the very front of it as we come back to the leaders. They come towards the end of the 9th tour, and Finoni still ahead, but Bramley now 2.5 tenths as they cross the timeline. The gap down by half a tenth. In towards Genderby and Ben they go this time. Joshua Turnbull and Matt Kendall getting close together. The two Altitude 3M Esports teammates nose to tail almost, but I wonder whether there's going to be a chop or a change between them, as Lewis Goff is still 1.3 seconds behind and can't really get involved. But Finoni here under a very horrible pressure at the moment. Of course, this is not where you want to be when you've got the car behind, looking very quick out of turn 5. That is a huge run there from Hayden Bramley. He found the best part of 2 tenths off that apex, and right now Bramley running all over the back of Finoni. Finoni here surely got to go defensive, coming down in towards the hairpin, and Bramley's got to look around the outside here, but will this be a feint? Will he go all in for the move? It's going to be a latter. He's going to try and go around the outside. That's going to be very hard to do, and in the end he is given the space to exist. It's going to be 2 wide coming through the Kingston and towards Fangio. Now who exactly is going to channel the 4-time Formula 1 champion? Once they come all the way through the left-hander at turn number 9 in towards 10. It's 2 wide. Finoni on the inside. Bramley still around the outside here, coming into Cunningham Bend. It's going to be Collier. It's a left-hander next. Bramley keeps the nose in. He has got the right to be on the left-hand side of turn number 11. Through in towards 12 they go, but this puts him on the outside again. And now Bramley's got to look for the switchback. He's going to go around the outside. It's very hard to get this done on the outside of turn 12. He is going to stay there. He keeps 2 wheels win the racetrack, but unfortunately with a touch of the grass that puts him back, and immediately Joshua Turnbull's back with this right now. And I think Turnbull's thinking, okay Hayden, you're giving it it a good go, but I want this now. And coming down in towards Lamar, it's going to be Bramley up the inside. Too wide they enter and going through into turn number 16. Well, right now, Bramley only go defensive and offensive at the same time. Elias Finoli doing an absolutely brilliant job here of only defending when he needs to. And meanwhile, Joshua Turnbull gets a huge run coming out to turn 16. Onto the Ulman straight he goes. And now altitude for him esports. They deploy both drivers here. Turnbull and Kendall coming through. Bramley tucks in behind and they're going to create a rolling wall here to make sure that Bramley can't find a way back past both of them at the same time. So through sunset now, Elias Finoli still leading, but he's now got the two altitude for him esports cars right behind him. As meanwhile, Bramley falls back into fourth place. But what a brilliant move. And there's still more to come here. We still got another 3 laps. This is absolutely on the limit here. You're all enjoying it by looks things in the YouTube chat, and we're enjoying it here in the commentating booth. But here comes Turnbull up the inside into Gender and Ben. Finoli does not cover up the inside. Can he find a way to switch it back to the inside in towards turn number 3? He's going to go for it, Finoli. He's waited to make sure he carries momentum on the inside under braking, but Turnbull takes the lead this race. Finoli goes defensive now versus Bramley. Bramley's found his way past Kendall. He snuck one past coming out to Gender and Ben. Kendall puts his nose in, but it's not going to work out there as in the end Bramley cuts it off, and Lewis Goff now is all on the back of this. Your top 5 has come together. With Joshua Turnbull taking the lead of this race. Elias Finoli still with him here and making the way down towards the hairpin. We can see going defensive there is Kendall. He does not want to lose out to Lewis Goff, but Goff right now really controlling the narrative of this one as your number 1 driver, having to get his elbows out there, making sure that Goff can't do what Bramley did on the previous lap versus Finoli, which is go all the way around the outside and hold it too wide onwards. And well, for what was Hayden Bramley, what an incredible attempt. In the end, it didn't pay off, and Joshua Turnbull really seized on it. It was almost as if Hayden Bramley had done all the homework, and then Joshua Turnbull picked it up off of him if they were in the classroom and said, right, actually, I'm going to turn this in as my work instead. But Joshua Turnbull being the opportunist there, and Hayden Bramley really would figure as though right now he's got to find his way past the Nordic driver in front of him. But the problem is Finoli is continuing to make himself absolutely obscenely wide and is staying with Turnbull. Finoli is not out of this yet. All 5 of these drivers are absolutely masters of their craft, and right now with only another 2 laps to go after this one, I don't think it's done yet. George Caracoulis meanwhile in 6th place, still ahead of Brian Scaleri, but they are all catching up to the leaders, bringing Matt Strand and Philip Keeler behind them. And then we do have Jacob Blairlett 3 seconds back there. You can see by his lonely self at the moment, so therefore he's not got much company. But I get the feeling that right now his focus is just going to be on keeping it together. But back to lead as we go. The scramble down the Ulman straight. Turnbull weaving. He'll get away with that once, but he's got to be careful doing it excessively because it can lead to risky contact. But right now Turnbull holding on here as we look back from your leader and parks it on the apex of Sunset as Finali goes to the V-shaped switchback there, trying to find a bit more momentum, but it's not going to work. Turnbull right now, he's driving to defend. He's not driving to be on leading pace, and that's what you got to do. He goes defensive here in towards Gender and cuts the inside. Meanwhile, Bramley goes into the middle. He switches the inside as Bramley finds Turnbull, but in the end, does he find his way past Finoli? Yes, he does. Finoli goes outside. I think there was a bit of contact between the two of them, and towards the braking zone of turn number 3 they come, and that's going to be their Kendall getting past Finoli. So Finoli runs wide, and Lewis Goff dives up the inside as well. Goff moves into 4th place. Finoli losing out one small mistake, and Sonny drops all the way down to 5th place, but now he's at the back of the pile here. They shuffle like a pack of cards, and well, you can see only 1.1 seconds behind there is Caracoulis ahead of Scaleri. They're being brought into this as me on Matt Strand and Keelar. They're also close together here and getting ready to fight. But coming down into the braking zone for the hairpin, well, we can see Strand going defensive here versus the Polish driver, and he's going to hold the number 11 at bay. These two very evenly matched as their door numbers would suggest. But from then going all the way back to leaders, we're going to stay glued to them for the most part, ladies and gents. You have to forgive us for the fact we're not covering other cars, but given how close this fight is right now, we will focus on the top 10 all the way to the end of the race by looks of things. And Joshua Turnbull leading this one for now, but Hayden Bramley is back with him. Bramley's finally found a way through. Finoli, but what did it cost? And in the end, well, it's cost a bit of tire life most certainly, and that's why the big questions as well. These races, the best part of 25 minutes approximately based on the number of laps we accrue, and the tyres on these cars normally do last the best part of 15 to 20 minutes depending on track conditions and also the circuit that we are racing at. So I wouldn't be surprised now if tyre life is starting to bite a little bit, and that's where mistakes can be made. But rolling the way onwards, coming in towards turn number 16 here, you can see they're all making their way as wide as humanly possible there. They're allowed to do that. That is within track limits, and as they power the way down Ulman, Turnbull weaving, bobbing left, bobbing right now like a boxer. And the reason is he doesn't want to be hit here by Hayden Bramley, who's trying to line the ultimate cross, which will be a move into that braking zone for Sunset. But Bramley 9 every time the weave is made. That cost him a little bit of time down the straight for the leader, and it means that all he can do is get closer and closer. Because coming out of this bend, they go on to the final lap. One more tour here at Sebring today, and right now, can Joshua Turnbull hold on? Here we go, white flag waves. Hayden Bramley on the attack. It's much like the race starts, and as they come down in towards turn 1 this time, Turnbull goes defensive into Gender B in bed. Bramley looks for the cut back around the outside to inside here, but Turnbull parks the car on apex. Meanwhile, Bramley gets the better run still. He makes his way all the way over, but Bramley on the inside, he's going to go for the move into 3. It's too wide on entry, but how will it be on exit? The answer is they're still too wide as Turnbull goes high on curb. Lewis Goff looking around the outside there. Matt Kendall, it's not going to work out for him. So Bramley does take the lead of the race as Turnbull's all over the exit curve at turn number 5. It bounces the car around, but he powers through it. And Bramley now leading, at least for now. We're down towards the hairpin here, and right now Bramley's going to go absolutely defensive. There is no way he's not doing this as Lewis Goff sneaks up the inside. There's 3 wide towards the rear of the top 5, and Goff sneaks up the inside of Kendall and Caraculas, and he makes the progress on Finoli as well. So there we go. That's George Caraculas now up into the top 5. Can the Greek driver here sneak his way into the podium places? He's being cheeky. Brian Scaleri at the back of this group as well. They're all getting very close together, but as they all fan out, nobody right now wants to lose the place. Nobody wants to gain one either. They all seem to be locked in at the moment, but I suspect it's all going to be run down the Allman Straight towards sunset. It's going to dictate the rest of this race now, unless anybody makes a mistake here. Can Hayden Bramley just give himself some breathing room? As he comes out of Tower Bend, no, he runs a little bit wide. The 4 tenths of a second gap he was starting to craft has been denied. It's now down to 3 tenths as they come through Bishop Bend, and right now, much like the Church Bishop, he's going to be praying he doesn't make any more mistakes at this rate as he comes through into 15 and 16. We can see there, Caraculas going defensive versus Finoli. Finoli relegated to 6th, and right now, I don't think he's going to be able to find a way through. I think the top 4 are going to splinter off. Albeit it may only be by 6 tenths, but 6 tenths or not, that's a splinter in this group, and therefore he's going to be stuck there. But back to lead as we go, and we can see Bramley now doing what Turnbull's been doing on the previous laps, weaving down the Allman Straight, trying to break the distance time, and Turnbull immediately now says, right, fine, we're not going to play that game anymore, as Gosko look up the inside there of Kendall, and well, he's going to go all in. Meanwhile, Bramley parks on apex there, and well, there was contact, I think, to the back of Bramley by Turnbull, but Turnbull loses all the momentum, and for Hayden Bramley, he's going to get this done. Hayden Bramley will win at Sebring today, ahead of Joshua Turnbull, who brings on home 2nd place, ahead of Lewis Goff and Matt Kendall. George Caraculas will finish in 5th, ahead of Brian Scaleri. Elias Finoli is 7th, ahead of Matt Strand, who holds off Philip Killar, and then Jacob Lele will round off your top 10 ahead of Jorge Montanes, with Ben Spozo finishing 12th, just ahead of Jonas Kramer, who held off Leo Clausen, who was 14th, and there'll be Mihai Dragan, who rounds off the top 15, ahead of Mataz Machado, takes 16th in from an 18th place start, ahead of Marcus Camerich, and then it will be Thomas Chevalier ahead of Stevani Madrigal, and AJ Cabrera will recover to a 20th place finish, and in 21st it will be a bit of time, but he makes it in the end. Give him a round of applause like them all, ladies and gents. But it's great to see so many drivers finish the race. It is going to be Danny Hanses, who after 2 spins still makes his way home on the lead lap there in 21st place, finishing exactly where he started. But my good Lord, what a race. It really was an incredible conclusion to the race in here today. And well, let's just take a quick look back at that final lap, and in particular what we got to see right towards the end for Lewis Goff versus Matt Kendall, because whilst we did see our 2 leaders making the way on through, well, we saw these 2 going too wide into that braking zone, but what about Turnbull? Was there contact here? Not quite in the end. Josh Turnbull had to back off there. He tried to go for the inside, but he got chopped off fairly by Hayden Bramley, who had the better line. That's why Turnbull lost the momentum, and then we did see Goff in the end after making his way ahead of Kendall. I wonder, did Lewis Goff actually beat Kendall? Because as they crossed the line there, that camera angle makes it look like Kendall finished ahead. Our timing tower is normally about 100th or 200ths of a second out sometimes, so therefore we'll need to keep an eye on that, but definitely those 2 drivers enjoying a fight, and that explains the rest of that story. But with that, we take a breath, and indeed our circuit takes a breath as we take a look back at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, after an epic 13 laps of racing here for our Week 10 Strength and Field race in the 2026 Season 1 iRacing Official Porsche Cup by CONSPIT campaign, Hayden Bramley was your winner in the end by 8.5 tenths of a second, albeit the gap does not reflect how close it was all the way to the end, and in the end, Hayden Bramley was able to convert that 2nd place start into the win and dethrone Joshua Turnbull, the pole sitter today, who just missed out at the final corner. Lewis Goff took 3rd place in the end, and there is your confirmation he did finish 3rd, albeit only by 300ths at the line ahead of Matt Kendall. Kendall went to settle for 4th, and George Caraculas taking home 5th place there, the privateer, ahead of his fellow rival of Brian Scaleri, the SART MC driver, who took home 6th. Elias Finoli was relegated to 7th, just ahead of his teammate of Matt Strand for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, and that's not a reflection of how Finoli did today. However, that's where he's finished. It can be cruel sometimes, motorsport. Strand taking 8th there ahead of Philip Killar, with the Polish driver hounding him throughout the race, but wasn't able to find a way through, and Jacob Balele around round off the top 10 there from Canada. The number 14 privateer absolutely enjoying himself to complete that top 10. Jorge Montanes took home 11th place ahead of Ben Borzor, with Jonas Kramer in 13th ahead of Leo Clausen in their good little fight. And it was a further 2 seconds back to Mihai Dragan, who took 15th, the Romanian driver, 2 seconds ahead of Matthias Machado. The Brazilian was then followed up by the Austrian of Marcus Kemmerich, ahead of Thomas Chevalier, and then we did see Siviani Madrigal for TTR finish ahead of AJ Cabrera. Outside the top 20, finishing on the lead lap, the last two lead lap finishers, it was Danny Hanses, and then we did see a lap down finish for Joop van Tilburg, and we did see early retirements for Cristobal Lopez Castro, and also we did see a retirement, a non-start for Zach Turner. But goodness me, what a race, ladies and gentlemen. Start to finish, absolutely incredible here at Sebring. And they always say that Sebring is the one circuit around the globe that always delivers. You can always count on it. And we saw exactly why here today in the iRacing official Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. But as the circuit falls silent and we get ready to wrap up, well, it's just time, of course, ladies and gentlemen, for us to tell you a little bit about our title sponsor for this season. And that is none other than CONSPIT. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. And so, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we pack our bags and we leave the USA behind for the final time this season. But next up, for our penultimate week of racing, we are making our way to Germany for the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg, the Hermann Tilke redesigned Grand Prix circuit. And we will be there on Saturday, the 28th of February 2026 to see how the story continues in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. Until then, if you've enjoyed the broadcast, thank you for being with us every step of the way, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts available from the Strength of Field series. But until next time, we have been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuned into a Paul Walsh production. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.